Oh, so this will be recorded, just so you know. So welcome to the Open Space Authority. And some years ago, I had the pleasure of seeing Mark Heher on Facebook. And one of my friends who knew him had posted this video that he made where he was in this park. And I remember hearing, I think it was his sister was going, hee hee, or something like that. And this guy goes whipping past the camera. And to me, it felt like 90 miles an hour, like straight up a hill. And I was like, that guy's crazy. He's really adventurous and exciting. I have to meet this guy. This is so cool. And so poor Mark has had me as a fangirl ever since. Hook, line, and sinker. I love all the stuff that he does. And Mark has a wonderful blog that he does where you can read about his adventures every day. And so when I asked him to come and talk, I thought, you know, he takes these beautiful photographs. And so there's so much opportunity to learn about how nature has helped Mark, like over the years, and to hear a little bit about his story. So the presentation today will be in 3 parts, and you'll see that in our PowerPoint presentation, and I will read the slides. And if you have any questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat down there. And what will happen is Mark is here, he's online with us today, and he can answer in the chat. So he will be responding directly to your questions as they come up, and I'll help him keep an eye on that. So in case people have things like that. So thank you so much for joining us today. And what I will do now is I will share my screen. Woohoo! And here we go. Here we go. So happy to see everybody today. Move some things around here. So everybody needs beauty, places to play in and pray in, where nature may heal and cheer and give strength to the body and soul alike. That's by John Muir. Hello, my name is Mark Heher. Welcome to Nature Nurtures. California showcases nature at its finest. More birds. It has a scenic Pacific coast. Oh, wow. How many of you have had a chance to see these? Isn't that beautiful? You can almost hear the waves crashing on the shore. We have majestic redwoods. Looking at here, I can imagine how soft the ground probably is under all these redwood needles, and the smell of the trees and the shade and the moisture. We have vast meadows. Look at all these California poppies. These are so amazing. In case you didn't know, this is also our state flower. We have lakes and mountains and spectacular Yosemite. Absolutely love this park. Let's see, just making sure that nobody needs to come in. Here we go, letting some folks in. So part 1, I asked Mark to talk a little bit about the health benefits of nature. Nature has a calming effect. So the calming effects of nature reduce blood pressure and your heart rate. So there have been some studies that have shown that just being outside in the trees can help any number of situations and mental conditions also. And I know that at the Open Space Authority, we've had situations where we had children that were considered to be violent. And by taking them outside into nature and having them out there for a couple hours, a lot of those behaviors just went away. And so these are wonderful effects on us and the way that it can help calm us down. So if you've ever been really stressed, I highly recommend, you know, going out and spending some time outside, even if it's just the backyard or your balcony. It reduces stress and anxiety. I think part of this can be that you get some fresh air. There's oxygen being created by the plants. It's been shown that having the chance to see green and blue in particular does a lot to reduce our anxiety and our stress. And it boosts vitamin D levels. Vitamin D actually also helps with digestion, by the way, just so you know. And we all need this, so you do need your daily dose of vitamin D. And I love this, that it encourages people to exercise. This is one of the neatest things that Mark does this with his pictures sometimes, where he can make them very artistic like this. I think it's fun. Nature inspires creativity and artistic expression. It also improves sleep. So if you know anybody that's suffering from insomnia and having a hard time, or they're waking up a lot during the night, one of the things that's actually recommended by some doctors is to actually go camping or to sleep outside for a couple nights, because it's believed that when you wake up with the sun and then you start to get sleepy when it gets dark, that it actually helps you reboot your circadian rhythm, so you can actually sleep a lot better when you go back into your home environment. And it supports social cohesion. Look at all these happy people. You don't often find people that are not happy out in the parks. It's pretty fun, like, you know, getting out there with your family. But how long does it take for nature health benefits to start working? Have you ever noticed visitors' faces when they first arrive at a recreational area? They show smiles and excitement in anticipation of what nature will share with them. The health benefits from nature are almost instantaneous. Part 2. Each one of us will experience at least one life-changing event during their lifetime. In July 1996, I started using a wheelchair and breathing on a ventilator due to having muscular dystrophy. My doctors prescribed a healthy diet and exercise. And nature prescribed peace and spiritual healing. Nature keeps me positive and mentally focused. Its beauty eases muscle tension, making breathing more comfortable. I asked Mark about this because I was curious about it, and it turns out that with his condition, part of what can happen is his torso can get very tense, and it makes it harder for him to breathe. So being outside calms him down and allows his muscles to relax so that he can breathe more easily. I'm able to enjoy social interaction. I bet he has a lot of fans besides me jumping out of bushes at Rancho. It inspired me to become a nature photographer. So this was the number 2 most amazing thing that I discovered about Mark, is how incredibly talented he is. He's very patient, and he takes these absolutely gorgeous photos of wildlife and landscapes. Look at some of these. Watching and photographing birds became a new hobby. Along with landscape photography. Wow, look at that. I asked him if this was Vasona Lake, and he said yes. Look how gorgeous that is. That's right here in the Bay Area. During these trying times with the pandemic, it's become even more essential to spend time communing with nature to nurture our well-being. Hey, look, that's Rancho Cañada del Oro Open Space Preserve. Part 3, paying it forward. Not everyone has access to nature. Studies have shown that just looking at still images of nature can lower stress levels and improve your mood. We can pay forward the gift that nature has given us by sharing our photographs with family and friends and on social media sites. And this is one of the ways that I feel that Mark really helps us all, because I can't wait to see his pictures when he posts them. In this way, we can have the health benefits of nature available to everyone. I took a walk in the woods and came out taller than the trees. Henry David Thoreau. Thank you. Coyote Creek Parkway from 2019. Special thanks to Terry for hosting this presentation for me. So what I'd like to do now is I'll stop sharing. Let some folks in here. And what I would like to know is, I would like to ask Mark, put you on the spot here. Could you please tell us about the first kind of nature experiences that you had when you first came down with MS and you started going? Like, what was your experience like, and which parks did you choose to go to? If the rest of you have questions you'd like to ask him, you can feel free to go ahead and type those into the chat. So you can see that Mark says in the chat that I started to go to Vasona because of the creek, lake, and easy access. And Joyce likes your pictures. I think another question that I had for Mark is, in the beginning, like, did you feel afraid? Were you scared to like come out to the preserves? I was, because I was still adjusting to being on a ventilator and using a wheelchair. So that must have been quite an experience. I think you're a very brave person. And I really appreciate the gifts that you bring. You know, being able to wake up in the morning, I'd check Facebook to see what's going on. And so I did put you in my favorites. But being able to see these pictures and see what, you know, people are doing, but then see what you're up to and everything like that, it's a great way to start the day. So I'm glad you were able to overcome that fear and share your gifts with us. So Michelle would like to know, what are your favorite parks to visit? My favorite park nearby is Vasona, Henry Cowell Redwoods. Oh, I love that park too. Let's see. So Christy would like to know, do you have a preference for blue or green spaces? Does this ever change? Ooh, Capitola for the beach, and he prefers green spaces. Mark, did you have a love for nature before your diagnosis? Yes, I've always loved being around nature. Betty says, hi, Mark, what are some of your barriers you encounter when trying to get out in nature? Barriers would include no accessible parking, or the restroom is too small for wheelchair access. Mark has another presentation that he did with us where he's actually showing like what happens with the parking spaces. And I think for a lot of folks that they don't tend to think about the hash marks that are next to the parking spaces. And the reason that those are there is so that a ramp can come down and allow somebody in and out of a vehicle. And if you park too close, they can come down the ramp, but they can't get off the ramp. So could cause a lot of problems for people. Let's see. So Jeannie would like to know, she says, "Hi, Mark, what does easy access mean for you? Thank you, and thanks for being with us today." Oh, another difficulty, Mark says, is the improper maintaining of accessible trails. Mark says that easy access means that there are no barriers to visit a park, to a restroom, or using picnic tables and etc. And Betty says, "Thank you for sharing." Morningstar would like to know, Mark, do you prefer parks with water or with deep woods? Both. So Ron is asking, do accessible trails have to be paved? No, they can be hard packed dirt. Cool. I've heard of hard packed dirt and decomposed granite being used and things like that too. So James says that you mentioned studies that show the health benefits of nature. Can you say something about how these studies are conducted? So one of those studies, in case this question was for me, some of these studies, one of them was actually reported by our city forest. And what they discovered was there was a neighborhood where they had these beautiful mature trees, kind of like Willow Glen, where the trees grow over the road. They're like so old and it's really beautiful, very shaded, very cool neighborhood. It never gets baked in the sun. And so sometimes studies happen almost by accident because in that neighborhood, they got infested by some kind of beetle that killed a lot of the trees. So the city went through and they cut all those trees down, pulled the stumps out, and they put baby trees in their place. But it takes trees like 5 to 10 years to like get it to a decent size. And during that span of those 5 years, the first 5 years that those trees were gone, the heart attack rate and the stroke rate went up in that neighborhood by something crazy. Like I want to say it was like 25%. And the only change to that neighborhood was the loss of all the trees and putting the baby trees in. So just having that loss, caused people to go, well, what's causing this? And they had to go back and look at the neighborhood and try to figure out what it could possibly have been. And that they figured out it was the trees. It was the loss of the greenery, the loss of the shade, the loss of all the fresh oxygen and things like that. So nowadays, what open space is doing is trying to get folks to come do PhD work, like at our preserves, so that we can observe some of this stuff too. But the other places that are looking into this is actually Kaiser. Kaiser Permanente is doing some research into this. And then there was a group called Healthy Parks, Healthy People. And it actually got started in Australia and then came over to San Francisco. And that was the idea of, we were part of this program actually. So you can take people's blood pressure when they first get to the park, and then they would walk around and do an activity with us, and then you take their blood pressure again at the end and see if their blood pressure actually went down as a result of being outside. So there were several different park agencies in that program that would do like heart rates and blood pressure and things like that and see if it helps. Let's see. I'm just scanning for more questions here. Oh, I know what I was asking him. Hey, Mark, if you could choose anywhere in the world to go and money was no option, like any natural area, like where would you want to go? The Yukon. I think you knew I was going to ask that, huh? So Mark loves Alaska. I asked him if he'd ever been on a cruise, and he was saying yes. So Ron's asking, how steep can a trail be and still be considered accessible? What would be your recommendation for that? 5% grade. Okay. 5% grade. I did a program at Rancho Cañada del Oro one time because we put a paved loop trail in there. And that paved loop trail is a half a mile. So if you want to go and do laps and stuff like that, you can, and get a sense of how far you're going and stuff like that. But one time we were doing a school program out there, and this car showed up, and it was a van, and this little bitty guy, his dad like pulled him out of the car, and then they brought this wheelchair down that had like 6 wheels on it. I'm like, that thing looks like a tank. It was incredible. And so they're like down the ramp, and the ramp was interesting in that it came out the back of the van, like not the side. And I was like, that's different. And so this thing comes down like this, and he puts this little bitty kid like in there, and he had like the joysticks and stuff. And I'm like, oh man, I hope he can go up the trail. I hope it's going to be okay. And then the next thing I know, I had to take half the class and go down a different trail. So I didn't see what happened with him and the docent. But when I came back, they were gone. And I remember thinking, oh man, I hope he got to go up the trail because there's like chipmunks and stuff up there. That's a pretty cool trail, the Mayfair Ranch Trail. And then all of a sudden I hear this hee 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 hee. And down the trail comes this wheelchair with the 6 wheels on it. And he's like, and he came whipping into the parking lot and did some donuts around me. And he had so much fun that when we had to take him down, the other trail was just flat. It wasn't uphill. And he was complaining that it was boring. I'm like, well, I'm not going to worry about you. I wish everybody had these awesome wheelchairs like you had. That was pretty cool, man. So that was good for me, made me giggle. Ellen says, thank you for all the lovely pictures of nature. It's very inspirational. I really miss the outdoors. Thanks for the inspiration to get out there again. Ellen. I'm wondering if this is Ellen that comes and visits us at the Wildflowers. Oh, and so something else that we can do here is I'll ask Mark, I will pick your brain about it totally, Mark, is that I'm beginning to work on some programs that are sensory experiences. So trying to add sound effects, a lot more description and things like that. And so it'll be sort of like a sensory, like a mental hike of going out into the park so that you could, it's designed for people that are sight impaired, but anybody could enjoy it. And so we'll go on a guided visualization and go on a walk through one of the preserves. So we'll adventure that way. So if you'd like to try something like that, you're more than welcome to join us, and I'll let you know as soon as I get that going. And then the other group for folks that are mobility impaired, or if you're bedbound, is you can look them up on Facebook or online, virtual photo walks. And the guy's name is John Butterill. He's up in Canada, and he does some amazing experiences where he has interpreters and guides throughout the world. So he'll set up a schedule so you can see who's talking about what and where in the world, and you can sign in. He vets everybody that goes into that program. So you do need to have a disability that doesn't allow you to have this experience otherwise. But as a person that does programs, it's absolutely wonderful because you do Zooms like this. And so you have like an earbud and you have your phone hooked up and you go for a walk and you do your program as if everybody was right there with you, because they are. So people talk, and he usually has about like 15 people on a program. So people talk and they can ask their questions as the person's going through the park. And so you can have this back and forth one-on-one experience where it's really fun. And so virtual photo walks, I highly recommend him. So I wonder what his thing is, I could look it up really quick. We started doing some programs with him, and then also Saved by Nature started doing some programs with him in this area. Ah, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the chat. Here's John's link. Oh, are horse trails an option for some disabled people? And Mark says, yes, if they're wide and somewhat level, no obstacles over 2 inches. Oh, and Ellen, he says, thank you. So Ron is asking, do you like going to the Bay Trail to take pictures of birds? Hey, Ron, where is that trail? He says, yes, I do. One of my favorite bird watching places. Oh, I foresee a calendar in the future. All around the bay, 500 miles? Whoa, I have to check this out. So Morningstar is asking, Mark, are you ever concerned with the growth of our society that our beautiful parks can be at risk? And are there any laws in places so that this doesn't happen? He says, I'm concerned, which is why we need to make sure we save open spaces and such. Thank you. And then Callista said that, Mark, thank you. Beautiful reflections, both visual images and your thoughts. I have to leave at 12:30 and I really feel nurtured. So what I will do, always have to our email is long. I'll put my email in here. And if anybody has a question for Mark that they think of later on, if you want to send it to me, I can pass it on. I can pass it on to him. So my email is tragaway@openspaceauthority.org. There are a couple different plans in the works right now through Open Space. So the Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve, the planning team is starting to look into putting another paved access trail there. And that one they were planning on having it be about 3/4 of a mile. So it would be longer than the 1/2 mile trail that you have at Rancho Cañada del Oro. And then the beautiful new North Coyote Valley Conservation Area has a lot of really nice flat spots. And so, we took Mark out there and I had him check it out for me, make sure it was a good spot for people to come. And so we could look into doing some programs out there too. And as soon as the COVID stuff, loosens up a little bit and people start to be safer and healthier, I would love to be able to offer some programs out there where we can have, a get together and go check it out and see it and things like that. That whole area floods with water every year when it rains, and then it gets thousands of birds coming through. So you better believe I'm going to be sneaking Mark out there to check it out and take pictures too. So Ron is asking, Mark, do you post your pictures online? Ooh, and there's this blog link too. So he puts them at blogspot.com. So that's down in the chat if you'd like to check that out. So other than that, I would, if you think of any questions you'd like to ask later on, feel free to email me and I can pass those on to Mark and he can respond. And thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate seeing everybody. And Mark, thank you so much for doing this program with us. And it's, as always, it's a genuine pleasure. So everybody stay safe out there and feel free to come and enjoy the preserves. We're open. We're here for you. And we look forward to seeing everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming and joining us today.